Jim.
Hard sport drive, black alert, Giorgio has gone berserk. Feature bad left, Edward is an idiot, Spock is dead, Worf is wed, Chekhov's wearing red. Data's cat, Kempak's stat, Q has had enough of that. Beam me up, make it so, everybody let's go. We talk about the series. You can join us live by picking up your phone now. We talk about the series. We're coming to you on your streaming services now. We talk about the series. Comics, books, and games, we go beyond the show now. We talk about the series. Come and join us as we sit and chat and we go on and on and on and on.
Well, good evening, Trekkies and Trekkers around the globe. It is Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Welcome to episode 615 of Trek Talking. That was my mistake because I'm new to the studio and I forgot to go live on the theme song, so I cut a little bit of it out. But you guys have heard it enough times, you have it in your memory. We're going to be short two Treksperts tonight. Eric and Paul are not with us, but they are with us in spirit. And they have recorded a special message that we're going to play for you guys a little bit later in the show that I haven't even heard yet. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say. Please head over to our trektalking.com page. Over there, you can find our previous shows and all kinds of fun stuff, including a little blue talkback mic in the bottom right-hand corner. I urge you to bookmark trektalking.com and use the little blue talkback mic. You can record a question for Mr. Tim Russ, who's going to be with us on the 16th. We will play your question for him live on the air and get an answer. You can also say hello to us, tell us what you thought about an episode. And you want to get used to doing that because in the not too distant future, we're going to start giving away free prizes to people who leave us a message. So you want to get used to leaving us a message now so that when we start giving away free stuff, you're all set. Okay. Charles, are you online with us?
I'm online. I had to disconnect and reconnect.
Okay, because my switchboard is saying Charles is not online. But you're online and you can hear us.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So anyways, you can head over to our page. Our Facebook page, Trek Talking Podcast, is still having issues with that damn Facebook AI. The page is up. You can see it. But it's not live. I can't post on it. So keep an eye on our Facebook page for future posts because we like to put polls up and ask you guys what you thought about episodes and all kinds of fun stuff to get interactions with you guys, which unfortunately we can't right now, but we will hopefully have that resolved very, very soon. As of right now, we have 24,119 followers. It might be more if I could access the page, so we're going to go with that. Yeah, so that's it. I'm your most excellent host, Uncle Jim, and I want to go around and say hello to my Treksperts. So we'll start out with Charles. Charles is out in Las Vegas. How you doing tonight, Charles? Charles is muted.
Sorry, Mike.
There he is.
Yeah,
he's not muted anymore.
Yeah, Jim just has to look at my screen and say, turn on your mic. I'm doing good. Long week. Glad the week's almost over. I missed a little bit of the intro. I'm not sure if Jim mentioned it, but not only is he working on trying to get the Facebook page running, we have a new Patreon page. No longer the old Trek Talking Patreon page is going to be dropped, and we're going to be replaced by the Trek Talking podcast page. Right now, I got a couple of free memberships on there, but looking for some paid members to help us pay for the show and maybe do some special things. So come on and join us. I just posted a link to last week's video, our live view of our podcast, and the cadet review. Missed out what I said about what was on the cadet review? Visit the Patreon page. You can see that and some past lists. see what shows you want to go back and watch to see how Lower Decks ties into past episodes of other Trek series.
Yeah, and in the future, our video versions of our podcast aren't all going to be up there for free. So we're just doing that to test it out. Uh, in the future, we're going to make those videos be a paid membership as well. And we're also going to have some special shows like some Comic Corner, some Book Nook. I might get Leslie Hoffman back, and we might do some special stunt treks for you guys. So we're going to have all kinds of exclusive members-only stuff coming up in the future. So you want to keep an eye out for that as well. And we also have out in Portland, our only Portlander tonight, our very own one and only donut guy himself, my new engineer, Mr. Scotty. David, how you doing, David?
Well, for being the only Portlander, I guess that means I get all the food.
That's true. Just don't eat that moldy cheese.
Oh, you mean this moldy cheese?
Yeah, that moldy cheese. Don't be eating the moldy cheese.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's been good. I was really super excited about today because we get to talk about Lower Decks. This is getting pretty good for
Yeah,
the
Lower
final
Decks
season.
it's rolling down. This is episode 8, where we are a week behind. We'll be 2 weeks behind because we're not going to be having a show on Christmas. Well, the day after Christmas, because I won't be here. So there won't be a show on that Thursday, which
Yep,
is going to prolong our
Jim's ditching us for Boxing Day.
That's right. Yeah, for Boxing Day. So, but that's all right. It'll just prolong our enjoyment of Lower Decks. So that's pretty cool. But we got some great stuff coming up for you guys anyways. And as I mentioned, you can go to our Facebook page, and over there's all kinds of great stuff once that damn AI pulls its head out of its ass and gets things straightened out. I have a post on there asking you guys, hey, where you listening from, dudes? And then just drop us a line and tell us where you're listening to. Emojis will get my attention quick. And then if you see a heart next to your name from yours truly, Uncle Jim, then your name is going to be featured in a future fan shout out. So not only does the whole world know that you're a Star Trek fan, but that you're a fan of this podcast. And at this point, I would usually turn to Eric, but Eric is not with us. So in that case, Charles gets to start us off with our fan shout outs. Take it away, Charles.
Oh, thank you, Jim. Let's start off with the top contributor. Welcome from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Linda L. Lambert. Welcome from Charleston, West Virginia. Nancy Bennett Morgenstern. Welcome, Nancy and Linda. And from La Palma, California, welcome, Sergio Diaz. Another top contributor from down below me in Arizona. Welcome, Carolyn Han. Hope you're getting some nice weather too, even though it's a little warm up here in Vegas. And from Jacksonville, North Carolina, welcome, Evelyn Dionfro, something like that. Welcome, Evelyn. David, who's on your list?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I would like to say hello and thank you for listening to Jana Hoffman. She is a top contributor and is from Central Oregon. I guess you can share some of my food if you want, but next on the list is thank you to Evelyn D'Onofrio from Jacksonville, North Carolina. And thank you. And next is a thank you to Kenneth Senior Varmal from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Thank you to Clay Cooper from Santan Valley in Arizona, giving us a little symbol of a purple cactus. Must be pretty hot over there to grow those things. And last on my list, thank you to a top contributor, Robin Margolin from New Jersey, USA. Hope you guys are keeping safe up there, and I'm going to swing this over to Jim.
Yes, thank you so much, David. I am no Paul, and I'm definitely no Eric. So we're going to try to go international here. So you guys got to bear with me on this one, okay? We want to say thank you to listening to Peter Burns, who's a top contributor from Derbyshire, England. G'day, mates. Thank you so much. We also want to say thank you for listening to Alice Dashwood, who's listening to us in France. We don't know where in France, but we just know it's from France. Thank you so much, Alice. We also want to say thank you to Henry Winspear, who's listening to us in Portsmouth, England, and sends us the flag waving proudly. Thank you so much for being a fan, Henry. And of course, we have Saku Heinen from Finland. Excellent. Never been to Finland, but I hear it's nice. And last but not least, we want to say thank you for being not only a fan, but a supporter of Trek Talking to Victor Nunez, who's a top contributor from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Here we had a Star Trek aired nonstop since 1960s, he says. Thank you so much for being a fan, Victor. We really appreciate it, and it's great to have you guys along. And now it's time for our Star Trek polls.
Polin', you know we like knowing what you thought about the show, and we try to share your opinions with all of our minions out there because they listen worldwide. So tell us just what you think, and together we will all drink Kanar and Romulan ale tonight.
Okay, we're going to turn to Charles for our polls this time. And so, Charles, you want to get us started?
I sure will. Let's start off with Relics aired on October 10th, 1992. The 6th episode, 4th season of The Next Generation. Did you like it, or was it fan service? 95% of our fans liked it, and only 5% thought it was fan service. Now, Jim's going to have to refresh our memory because I have forgotten what Relics was.
Really? Wow. That's a shock. So Relics is the episode where... All right. So for those of you who don't remember, Relics is the episode where the USS Enterprise D finds the USS Jenolan crashed on a Dyson sphere. They go aboard the Jenolan and they find out that the transporter has been locked in a feedback test mode. Geordi turns around and cross wires it and gets whoever's in the pattern buffers to come out. And of course, it's Scotty with a broken arm, and he's fine. And what was the name of the guy that didn't come back? Chester, Charles.
Can't remember.
I can't remember. But there's another poor lad that doesn't make it out. So Scotty is the only survivor of the USS Jenolan. He comes aboard the Enterprise, and he gets into it with Geordi, and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, you know, so 95% of our fans liked it. 5% felt that it was fan service. Well, unfortunately, I think I'm in with the 5% because I felt that it was fan service, pure and simple. I enjoyed it, but I just felt that it was fan service because, you know, they were making Scotty. He's been in the pattern buffer for what, 100 years or something like that, 89 years, something like that. And
Yeah.
here's Geordi, who's the engineer of the Enterprise D, and here's Scotty telling Geordi how to engineer the ship and how long repairs are going to take. When Scotty is so far out of date, how would he even know these things? And I just felt that it was a lot of fan service for me. But it was nice to see the character come back. I did, you know, that was nice. But yeah, I did feel it was a touch bit of fan service myself. I did, though. I really did enjoy the scene where he goes on the holodeck and he says, show me the bridge of the Enterprise. No bloody A, B, C, or D. And he goes on the bridge, and then there it is. And Picard comes out, and they share a drink of something green on the bridge of the Enterprise. And I thought that was a touching scene where Picard, got together with Scotty. I did like that. So, yeah, I'm with the fans on that.
Jim, I think you need to get the line correct. It's no bloody A, B, C, D, or E.
Yep.
Actually, there wasn't E yet, but
yeah, there was no E yet.
yeah.
But yeah, I felt that it was a bit of fan service.
It
What
was
about
a fun.
you, David?
I actually I'm kind of both with this. I liked it because of the story plot, but also yes, it was probably a bit of fan service. I mean, from this point on, I mean, what TV series doesn't really do fan service for almost anything now, right? I mean, MCU does that. A lot of different other newer TV shows that are kind of reflecting off of older TV shows, they do a lot of fan service, in my opinion. But to me, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good for the plot, or like the lore of Trek and everything. So I thought it was really well done, and I'm glad they brought Scotty back because that proved that they are from the same Prime universe. So, kind of made it fun. So yeah, I liked it.
See, I think that when they bring a character, if they're going to make a reference to a previous show, or they're going to bring a character back, it needs to be for a purpose. It needs to, and we've talked about this with Lower Decks many times. When they bring a character back or reference a character, if it's for the plot and it has something to do with the story, then that's great. But I think doing it just to do it is what I would classify as fan service. Like when they brought Sarek back on TNG, there was a reason for him to be there, and it was integral to the plot of the story and trying to find Spock and all that stuff, and that was cool. So what about you, David or Charles? What did you think?
I think there's a split. It was a good episode, but I think it was also another way of trying to bring some of the original series cast to the series. Where Bones did it the first. Kirk didn't want anybody doing it, yet Bones did the first episode. Then we eventually got Scotty to come out. Then we end up having Spock come out and Sarek come out. So it's nice to see the characters. It was a bit of a predictable episode. And yeah, we didn't talk about fan service back then, but we kind of do now.
Right. Exactly.
Especially, it wasn't as much Lower Decks as I think we were talking Picard, where you got people just showing up. It's like, well, don't just have them show up. Give them a good reason why they're there.
Exactly. There's got to be a reason for them to be there other than, oh, look, here's another character. Oh, look, here's another character. Then it becomes fan service.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was just like a filler episode. They didn't really quite knew how to do that. So they're like, hey, let's just bring somebody in from the previous series. But they probably had planned it a long time because I would imagine for like, what's his real name? Doohan, I think is how you pronounce
Jimmy
it.
Doohan.
Yeah,
Jimmy
James.
Doohan.
I'm pretty sure it took a long time for at that time to get him on board to even get into an episode. So they were probably planning it for quite a while. So I would imagine they had some sort of story plot that they wanted to go based off of. And yeah, it might have been fan service, but I think it's a little bit of both. So.
Well, like when they had George Takei on Voyager, that was a great plot. The way they worked Tuvok in, it was a flashback. He was the captain of the Excelsior. That whole thing worked really, really well.
Yeah.
But I digress. We're getting off track and we're kind of deviating. So what's our next poll question, Charles?
Star Trek, the animated series episode, The Magics of Mugusus 2. The Enterprise is sent on a scientific mission to find a creation point in the area of the galactic core where matter is being created. Did you like it or not? 75% of our fans liked it, 25% of our fans didn't.
Now, the reason why I picked this one is because I was reading an article about the animated series, and this particular episode was banned because a lot of the Bible Belt states felt that the main character, Lucian, was too reminiscent of Lucifer, and that the episode was promoting the devil and devil worship and this type of thing. So the episode was banned. And so I wanted to find out what our fans thought about the episode. And 75% of them liked it, and 25% didn't. What about you, Charles? Did you like it?
I'm going to have to answer C. I think I missed this one. I know there's been 2 or 3
All right.
animations that I have not gotten around to seeing, and this was one of them.
Yeah, this was an interesting one where everybody had the Force. I'm going to call it the Force. I don't know what else to call it, but if you mastered the Force, then you could pretty much do anything you wanted to. And Spock and Kirk master the Force, and they face off against these Denzians at the core of the universe or wherever they were. It was a very interesting episode, and I don't want to say I loved it, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. How about you, David? Did you get a chance to catch this one? This is one of those obscure ones.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've actually seen TAS, but I'm trying to remember because I kept thinking that they had some sort of red flying serpent thingy, but it wasn't really like a full dragon. It was more like a snake with wings, from what I remember. And yeah, I can see how the Christians or the Bible believing people would say that this would reminiscence of Lucifer, because that's exactly what describes Lucifer in the Bible. So, I mean, technically, yes. I guess I would say I'm kind of didn't care for it, liked it category again. So I'm kind of 50-50. But yeah, to me, I like I said, it's been a while since I've seen this episode, but yeah, that's me.
It's
Yeah,
interesting.
it was a fun one.
And with the second episode of Star Trek that got banned in some states.
Yeah, I picked this one intentionally. Nothing I do is by mistake. All right, so before we start talking about the episode, we always get to do some cadet training with Charles. So we have to play our current cadet training song.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
Can I
Just
insert
because-
them into some food instead?
Yeah, some food. All right, so this is the part of the show where Charles will share some interesting insights onto other episodes and how they relate to this episode of Lower Deck. So take it away, Charles.
And this was a harder episode. But I got a few things in here. Of course, with the mention of the crew member that was de-evolving and evolving, of course, we kind of tie into TNG's Genesis. Season 7, Episode 19. This is where the crew de-evolved. If you remember Worf turning into this wild creature hunting Deanna. And I think that was part of the reminiscence of that series. Of course, one of the lines had to think of Jim when I saw it. When the doctor sat there and mentioned, well, I got antidotes for when the crew starts singing randomly again. Well, I'm not sure she was around when that happened, but of course, she's talking about Strange New World, Space Rhapsody, Season 2, Episode 9. That was a singing episode. And they weren't sure why they were singing, but they were. This was an interesting one I picked up here. DS9's Homefront Part 1 and Paradise Lost Part 2. If you remember the creature who was representing himself as a Grazerite and then transformed to another creature, well, this is not the first Grazerite we've seen. In that episode, in those two episodes, Homefront Paris and Paradise Lost, President Jersha Ionia is a Grazerite, the same species as the one we saw disguised as a scientist this episode. And then I think at the end, when Captain Freeman went on her little holodeck visit, of course we got to reminisce to TNG. We'll always have Paris, Season 1, Episode 24. So there's a few episodes you can go back and kind of look at.
Charles, I remembered when Jax was in the holodeck. Well, when he was doing his thing, I was thinking of the comic book Day of Blood.
Ah, okay.
But that's just me. All right, guys. So we always ask you on our Facebook page, what did you think about this week's episode? And we ask you guys to give us a score of 1 to 10, or in this case, you liked it or didn't like it. And usually we have Eric doing this, but I'll jump in and do it tonight. So we asked you guys about Upper Decks, and I got to make my screen bigger because I can't read the text because it's too small for my old eyes. There we go. So Joseph Finn, who's a top contributor, said, the running gag with Freeman attending the crew was legit adorable, and I got a bit misty at Stevens arranging that date. Jonathan Rosenthal, top contributor, says, this was an outstanding episode. Every plot was just great, but my favorite has to be the Shax story. Got to love a dude who achieves peace by kicking Ghost's ass. Amen, brother. David Prada Molina, who's another top contributor, says, I loved it. The paradigmical shift in the episode feels so fresh. I'm glad we have the episodes done. Yes, add next to nothing to the overall plot, but have so much health, then it's... Wait. Am I reading this wrong? I loved it. The paradigmical shift in the episode feels so fresh. I'm glad we have this episode done. Yes, add nothing to the overall plot, but have so much hearth, then is wonderful. Yeah, I read it right. Okay. We also, Audra Wilton, who's another top contributor, said, I'm a sucker for Carol and her husband getting a little romance in. We don't see that kind of long-term marriage often in Trek, and it's just a wholesome relationship. Peter Christian Retrick, who's a top contributor, also said, best Anna episode ever. I gotta agree. Her trying to inflict pain on herself was just absolutely hilarious, and I wish they didn't bleep it all out because it was some funny shiznick going on there. Andy Steffen says, it was nice to see both the senior staff and some of the minor background characters getting a look in. Peter Kennedy says, another 80s DC Comics fan notices that Shax's ghost had the same color scheme that George Perez used in the Teen Titans comic when the heroes fought doppelgangers created by Raven and Trigon. I know that gray body red eye look anywhere. I gotta admit, Pete, that I'm not really big on my 80s DC Comics, particularly I'm sorry, the Teen Titans, but if you say so. Laura Peterson says, I didn't mind this episode overall, but I did feel like Billups should have the Rutherford working with him on the engine room repairs rather than the new ensign. It seems like something about Rutherford could have been revealed, promoted, or developed had he been with the crew member featured instead of another new person. Jason Zelenak's top contributor says, did Harry finally get promoted? I think he's answering a question for next week's episode, but that's okay. And Scratch Martin says, sorry, but I thought it might be the worst episode yet. In the original shows at parodies like TNG and Voyager, the bridge crew does everything, even when it makes no sense to send your captain, chief medical officer, and chief engineer on an away mission. So Lower Decks as a whole parodies and subverts this trope, giving us the perspective of lower deckers instead. This episode subverted the subversion, so brought us back to the original status quo. So it was a slightly sillier version of a TNG episode. Overall, our fans scored it an 8.9. And now, because we don't have Paul and Eric with us, but through the magic of technology, they recorded their opinions of the episode, and we're going to play that for you guys right now. I haven't listened to this, and neither has Charles or David, so we're going to hear what they thought about this episode for the very first time. So here's Eric and Paul sharing their thoughts on Upper Decks.
Hey, cool.
Cool.
Excellent.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
I'm doing okay, man. It's been a day.
Yeah, I hear you.
I have a new brace on my left middle finger that I didn't have before this day.
What did you do?
I apparently separated a tendon slightly from a bone in my kind of lower middle finger area here.
So we have been flipping off too many people, is what I'm understanding.
I think that I may have been a little aggressive with the flipping, but, these are the things that we must do and for efficacy.
Wow,
right?
Emphasis must be made.
That's what I'm saying.
Wow, seriously, what did you do? How did you pull this off? Is this work related?
I did it. No, I wish it was work related. Then they'd pay for it. But no, I was lifting some furniture, and I actually did this several weeks ago. Lifting a very heavy piece of furniture, but this is actually a type of injury, as I digress here, that they say affects rock climbers quite a bit. Because you have these things like in your fingers that are supposed to keep the tendons against the bone, and if you overload them, they can kind of pop, and the tendon separates from the bone a little bit, and then you gotta press that tendon up against the bone and let it heal up. So that's what this little doodad is for.
So here's the thing: as somebody who's older than you, not by a lot, but as some, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to be moving furniture anymore, right? We don't.
True.
We don't. We want to be that is when you play the "I'm an old man" eccentric card, right?
Well, and we're at the point in our lives where we should be able to hire people to move the furniture,
because basically it's just you have to this is a number one way that an injury can be sustained.
Yeah.
That or when your spouse says, "Hey, let's try stand-up paddleboarding," right? Which is how this finger got screwed up, right? Because it's and it's those are the kind of things, man. So it's if I ever have to move again at some point in my life, I will be hiring.
Yeah.
That's when we moved here. I hired people because I'm
it's not worth it.
Your back's gonna give out.
Yeah.
Or something nonsensical.
100%.
So at least this is a good, at least it's your middle finger, right? Doesn't get in the way of too much.
If there's one to not be able to bend, that's
you can hold up your hand and say, "You want to know what happened to the last guy who gave me his lip?
That's right.
Who said he didn't care about Wicked? Never wanted to see it?
Oh, burn." We love you, Jim.
We do. We just, it's our job to speak out. Okay, to not hide quietly. That's wrong.
Man. All right,
all right, so we're here to talk about, what are we here to talk about?
Upper Decks.
Upper Decks, yeah. The latest episode of what may be the last season of our beloved Lower Decks.
That's what they say. I refuse to quite believe it, but for the moment, you are correct. That is we're in the throes here of the end of things. I think this is the third to last episode, if I'm correct. I think there's 10 episodes, and this is number 8. 8, 9, 10, something like that.
That sounds legit. Yeah. I can easily verify that whole thing, but it seems like it's been doing pretty good it seems like it's been well received.
It has been.
From folks. So I don't think that there's a problem that needs fixing.
No.
Other than a Paramount larger seems to have some problems.
You know, I keep hoping that this is going to be a like a Futurama type situation where it just keeps coming back over and over and over again, and people can't get enough of it. So
you are correct. This is the third to last episode, or as we like to say in the
is that the penultimate?
as we like to say at the TV Guide offices, the anti-penultimate.
Anti-penultimate.
A-N-T-E. Anti-penultimate.
Okay.
Anti-penultimate.
Anti-penultimate.
All right.
All right, I got it.
Yeah, so, you know.
Right.
And then we got, so it means we got two more,
Yeah.
right? And we'll see how we do. But, so let's talk about Upper Decks, man. We start off with a pretty memorable line of dialogue from fan favorite T'Lyn. Will someone please explain why we are mutilating gourds?
I ask myself that every single Halloween.
You know, because it's like, I think that's for me, I like, a show should start with a memorable line of dialogue. You want to get hooked, right? And just be, oh, what's going on here? This sounds interesting, right? And I thought that did a good job of doing that.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that opening line. And in fact, like, speaking of T'Ana, like, to me, one of the stars of the show, I mean, so essentially the layout of the show is that you've got all of these different kind of A stories. It's not really an A, B, C, D story. They are all kind of equal, and they're all character stories that happen around a single character. You got the Shaxx kind of like war, PTSD story. You've got
That's like with my demons.
Yeah. You've got the T'Ana, like, weirdly, like, sadomasochistic sort of, like, pain story thing going on. You've got the Carol Freeman, you know, story going on. What else we have? We have Bill. I feel like Billups is actually really featured pretty heavily in this episode too.
And we've got the whole weird thing in the cargo bay, in the shuttle bay, right? With the with the bagoon space cows, right?
Called, yeah.
And the kind of bizarre conflict dynamic between Beta Shift and Delta Shift, right? And who's trying to, express, how to get along in command camaraderie style, not so effectively, right?
So first of all, those aliens in the bay were really cool. I love that they're like little pill bugs that sort of go through the shields and then they roll themselves up and they cloak and they cause mayhem, right? That's just like the perfect kind of, foil for all of the people who are trying to just hang out in the cargo bay and do their job.
And it's fun when something really big and big enough to kill you, in theory, like a large animal, is basically benevolent and doofusy, right? I mean, that's kind of,
a space cow.
Inherently funny. It's like, okay, this thing's big enough that it could kill me, but it's like, really just sort of like, taking up space. So I thought that was pretty funny there. So I think you did a great job of like, listing all these different elements. And initially I'm like, what in the hell do these things have to do with each other? And where is this going?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of where we start to meander away. And then we kind of realize that there's a theme happening of like the lower deckers kind of, tooting their own horns, thinking that, well, really, the star's this thing. Nothing ever happens around here.
Boimler says we're the star of this show, right? Yeah.
And then you have these wacky, we're going to see that it's really the bridge crew, right, that's in charge of things. And they even do a wacky salute, which is just, like a little league baseball team kind of thing. I was like, what is that?
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, it's like, what was like Cerrito Strong?
Cerrito Strong.
Yeah,
it's just like no.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny, but then things evolve, right? And initially I was just like, what is going on with Shaxx? And who is it? Then you realize the shadowy, weird serpent tongue dude is him, right? It's like his,
Do you want to dig into that, like that Shaxx story for? So the Shaxx. So here's what I'll say, like some of my absolute favorite parts of Deep Space Nine are the really heavy war episodes
with the Cardassians.
With the Cardassians, you've got that episode with Nog, the Siege of AR-55A, which is the one where Nog loses his leg, and it's really about like the trauma associated with war, and we've kind of toyed with that a little bit with Shaxx, right? He's got his attitude that he kind of brings to the table about really hating Cardassians. I mean, he hates Cardassians as much as Kira does, right?
Yeah. Well, like when we first met the real first Deep Space Nine not even Deep Space Nine, but on Next Gen. I want to say The Wounded with
Yes.
O'Brien, right?
Yeah.
where he was just freaking racist, hated
Cardi,
you know,
Spoonheads
really.
yeah.
And then in this one, they represent a reference for Shaq's Battle of Tempasa. Is that? Do we know that battle?
I didn't have a chance to look it
I didn't
up.
either.
I'm gonna guess that it's probably been referenced somewhere in that Deep Space Nine.
But really,
but,
you know, a lot of bombing, and you know, it very looks like a Vietnam type of firefight. Kind
Absolutely,
of thing. Yeah.
and so Shax is kind of like still dealing with a couple of different demons, and I really liked the kind of, you know, he makes that joke at the end about constantly fighting with his astral projected self or whatever, but isn't that what like a lot of people who have been through traumas do, right?
I think
they
so,
constantly,
yeah.
like fight with their astral projected self and like almost literally have to do battle with their own inner demons, and this is just like a perfect.
And this is making it
personification of that.
tangible to convey that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
So initially, though, I'm like, what is the way it's because they just jumped right into it.
Oh, they
and
totally jumped right
and
into it.
assumed you'd figure it out.
Well, and he kind of, it's a little random, right? He's like sitting on the bridge or whatever, and he just kind of looks off in the distance and has like a vision or whatever. I mean, we learn later it's because of these aliens. That they're actually coming in and they're affecting like how people are thinking about things and what they're seeing and that sort of stuff. But it really comes out of left field at first.
And when you say the aliens, are you talking about the Clickets? Or not the Bagoons?
No,
but
the Clickets, yeah.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
get to the Clickets
Yeah,
for sure.
okay.
And it's interesting because I am so used to, in an episode, if we've got Shax and we've got Tavana,
yeah.
they're together.
Yep.
Right? And
Yep.
they're never together in this episode.
Not in this episode.
Not in this
No, they got
episode, which is
totally
strange.
different stories, which is...
You know, we're getting a look at Dr. Ta'ana that normally you would expect Shax to be like, you know, hi, you know.
Can I help?
Yeah, let me help you with that.
Yeah.
But which doesn't happen, which is strange, right? But yeah, she's just like, and again, I mean, she had a great opener in her saying like, Chief Medical Officer's fucking log. just great intro to her. She's just foul mouthed and just bitter. I love it. So you know, I've been wanting more of the doc, and we got more of the doc in this. Well, way more than I think we were expecting, though. So.
A kind of intense doc. You know, at first I could understand it if somebody was like, "Ooh, that was a little kind of like off kilter for me for the doc." To me, it was totally on character, and I didn't actually mind it one bit. And actually, I think it makes the relationship between her and Shax a little bit interesting too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're both got our wounds, don't we? Yeah, that kind of thing. So it seems like they are more, you know, I think they would both swipe in the appropriate direction, finding each other. They'd be like, okay, we seem to have more in common than we don't. So so cool. So we got all that going on there, and we've seen the Delta shifters and the Beta shifters kind of arguing it out. And let's not forget, I think it's Ensign Barnes who
goes Cro-Magnon or whatever.
Yeah, who got basically turned into a futuristic caveman and
still
Freeman, plays the sousaphone.
Oh my God, Freeman talking about that. She's like, I don't know, she like evolved or de-evolved or something. Like she just like, it was so ridiculous that even the captain didn't really understand what completely happened. But what was important was that a pseudo Cro-Magnon ensign still plays the sousaphone and somehow demands the attention of senior staff members to come watch her like recital or something. I don't know.
And what was really interesting and I love Freeman, right? She's great,
God, she's
but
so good.
I love her. But what was really interesting is how they portrayed her and whoever the lackey functionary that she's teamed up with for this.
I can't
he's
remember
like
his name.
from Starbase or something. He's not part of the crew. He's like a liaison assigned, like an administrator.
That's
is what
true, because he's not.
He didn't really
normally
get much
around.
description, right? But he was sort of. I got the impression he was because he had high-ranking, you know, pips and whatnot. Yep. So, but it's like. I felt like somebody was riffing pretty hard to me on like the purposeless, ham-fisted way that managers in corporate America like basically have nothing to do except pretend to be interested in the people that report to them, right? I mean, I feel like that was the least heroic we've ever seen Freeman, right? She's just like,
and just going through.
I'm going to watch you do your, one-man show. I'm him sitting here, and I wish I could stay for more, but I'm really not interested and need to leave. So it's just like.
And she says at the beginning, I've got a busy day ahead of me, and you look at the little schedule. schedule, and it's all these little ridiculous things that are in these little windows, and they just check them off as they go.
Yeah.
Boop, boop.
And it's nice how at the end it's kind of been a little bit of engineered deception so she can have her anniversary thing with the big guy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
So
that was
surprising, but
yeah.
And then all of that stuff. And then we get to, should we talk about the Clickets?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about the Clickets.
Let's do it.
Because they're basically the threat that's, we always have the hidden threat that's revealed,
Yes.
right? That comes out there, and then everything. And their whole thing is they've been trying to essentially harvest the Bagoon. Did I get that right?
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think that,
Yeah.
and basically, and we want to. No, they want to get them for they want their technology
For the cloaking.
for their cloaking
Well, it's their
technology,
natural
and maybe
cloaking
we'll
ability.
sort of see if they're tasty when we're done harvesting them. So it's kind of like that, right? And so they're kind of the weird insectoid sort of.
I mean, it was very like. Do you remember that episode of Voyager, the Equinox, the 2-part episode where what was that captain's name? Anyway, the Voyager meets up with this other ship that's also in the same part of space that they're in, stranded, and this other ship has a captain who has found an alien that if he slaughters these aliens, he can get a little boost to his engines, and as a result, he's sort of like blasted ahead several tens of light years because he has harvested these aliens. So it's kind of like that. That actually gave me the same sort of vibe. These Clickets are like trying to find these, or like trying to get these little pill bugs, their cloaking technology off of them.
The idea is basically another form of life which becomes a resource for
Correct.
you, right? And you're going to
Correct.
exploit them as much as you want to.
Yeah.
It was John Savage, I remember. It was
Yeah.
like Captain Ransom.
Captain Ransom. It was
Yeah.
Ransom. Okay, that's
Yeah.
why I was
Captain
like, Ransom feels, but Ransom
because
from
there was,
Voyager.
remember, Titus Welliver, who went on to become a pretty big TV star.
Yeah.
It was like his second, right?
Yeah.
Burke or whatever, right?
I think that episode was just called The Equinox, part 1
Yeah,
and
but
part
a
2.
really good episode, and it's one of those ones where it's like, ostensibly heroic main characters from Starfleet are like kind of,
doing dark shit to get home.
really
yeah.
doing dark shit,
Yeah.
and basically unapologetic for it.
Yeah.
So it's that's one of
Doing
the
what they
things-
felt like they had to do. I mean, some people feel like Janeway's that way, that she does what she has to do to get the crew home,
Yeah.
to
or to get somebody back where
Right.
she feels that
Right.
they belong,
Right.
like Tuvix
But
situation.
Ransom
right?
was clearly like, nope, I'm just going to murder these things. I'm going to get a little boost on my engines, and I'm going to do it again.
And it's just like, and how is that different from having, a chicken dinner?
Yeah.
We were just elevating ourselves arbitrarily above another form of life.
Sentience is a question.
It
What
is.
level? Yes, exactly.
But we are the species that invented whaling.
We did.
So we
also invented the concept of sentience. So,
Yeah.
like, who the hell knows where
So
the
a lot of
line
crazy
is.
stuff, but that's why we keep coming back and keep liking Star Trek, because it asks us to look at those questions and go,
Absolutely.
is this bad or are we really fucked up?
Yep.
And let's discuss,
Yep.
which is what basically Star Trek always does to us, which is fantastic. So I think one thing I just have to not forget to say is the whole exchange with Dr. Tahana. That phaser was set to kill, and so am I.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. Hilarious. But I love the fact that, and to me, this is the funniest thing in the episode, was the fact that the way you defeat the Clickets was by complimenting them to death.
over and over and over
That they
again.
can't-
And they told us that at the beginning of the episode, right?
But it's
That
just so nonsensical and silly, but somehow it's like a Monty Python routine, right?
Well,
the way
it's-
it's
Exactly. I mean, it's another way that this show is making fun of Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Because you had the teaser at the beginning, which was obvious, and then at the end they take the obvious teaser, and that's obviously the thing you have to do to make it all work.
Yeah. Plant the seed and let it germinate for
Let it
3 acts, and
germinate,
then
yep.
you harvest it in the finale.
Totally.
So yeah, pretty funny. And then eventually you sort of realize, okay, both the lower deckers and upper deckers have their thing. Of course, the lower deckers want to end their day by going to the bar, which is appropriate. And so we had a lot less of Mariner and Boimler this week and more about the upper deckers and everything like that. But I still think it was generally pretty entertaining. What's your score going to be, is my question, given all this. I mean, I don't know that I was like laugh out loud funny a lot.
No, there were a couple of moments when I was definitely. I think where this episode really shines is in the, the little character moments that we get, and kind of like the the mini development of each one of these characters.
Yeah.
Like they haven't really told us anything new about these characters, but they've really taken us into their world a little bit deeper, which I did like. So last week's episode was my favorite, and I think I gave it like a 9 or a 9.
Yeah, me too. It was great.
It was so good. This one, I think is like a quality episode. Will I watch it over and over and over again? I'm not entirely sure. So I feel pretty comfortable giving this one a solid 8. Feels like an 8 episode to me.
Okay, I think I'm right in there. I'm probably more on like a 7.
Yeah.
And I think I would be more inclined to. I think it's a 7 because it's all got good ideas in it. But to me, it's just where it's lower decks. I just didn't find it that funny.
Yeah.
Which is a subjective thing, right? But
what if I remind you that at the very, very end, the last line that we hear is Talin saying, "I have made a joke at your expense."
Damn you, bringing Talin, my favorite character, out.
Does that add a half
Yeah,
point?
I don't know. I can't do a half. Because I feel, well, you know what? Here's the thing.
She says boom.
Yeah, she does say boom. All right, so I like your negotiating tactics and your persuasiveness, and because it's the holiday season,
Yeah.
I feel the right thing to do is to take my reticence and bump it up to an 8. So I think that's appropriate, right?
Crowd goes wild.
Because I don't want to be the old man that's yelling at clouds. I really
right.
don't think that's
Damn you!
What's blocking my sunshine? Damn you! It's just not good, right? So I think that causes way more problems with my self-image than it solves. So let's both say 8.
There you
for
have
this
it,
week.
folks. I mean, that's an 8. From...
Yeah, and this lets us transition to next week's penultimate episode. And who knows what that'll be like, because I don't think either of us have watched it.
We have not yet watched it, but I'm sure it's going to be good. I think we're all kind of riding this Lower Decks wave, as hard as we can. I think we're going to miss it. I know I plan to go back to the beginning and sort of start over when it's all over with, but... Yeah.
Oh, I just realized something we didn't talk about.
What's that?
I feel bad about it. Well, in engineering, we had a new character.
Oh, yeah, the person helping Billups out?
Yeah.
What was her name?
I think her name might be Meredith.
Sounds right. Yeah.
I am not positive. I feel like I'm going to have to look this up. Maybe someone can...
Well, helping... So she did... she was helping Billups all over the place when they had all the stored up plasma or whatever.
Yeah, what was this episode was called again?
Upper Decks.
I need more sleep on a regular basis.
It's been more than 6 minutes, so Paul started to forget her.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like Dory. I'm hoping I'm spelling Billups right.
It's Billups, I believe. Yeah. Well, at any rate, she... Yeah.
I thought that was a really good character.
I
though,
thought she was a great character.
I didn't think I knew... I don't think I recognized having seen her before. I don't know that they identified what her name was. If they did, I feel I missed it. But I thought she was a really good character, and I thought the voice actor did a great job, and I wish I knew who it was. I'm just like kind of glancing over IMDb hastily, trying to see who might be this person, and it might be... Do we have a Meredith?
I don't remember.
As a character?
I don't remember another man. That might have been Meredith.
So it might be the Charlotte Nickdow, who I don't know. But I'm thinking that's probably the character.
A good character and somebody who seemed as dedicated, but like in a more junior role as Billups, right? Like when Poop started going down, he's like, "Come on, let's do the thing." And she was like, even if we die? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Meredith. That's who the character is.
Yeah, that's her, yeah.
And I think she's an ensign, right? Ensign Meredith. And so we are talking about actress named Charlotte, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Nickdow, I believe. But I just thought her voice work was great.
Oh, yeah.
Really interesting, vibe to it. And I was rooting for her. And I was like, okay, cool new character.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to forget to throw that in there. So,
Excellent idea.
All the more reason to stick with an 8.
There you go.
Because there was extra good things.
See, there were so many reasons to take it from a 7 to an 8. I'm glad that we kept on.
I know. This is, this could be maybe how politics should work, right?
Exactly.
Basically, it's like
what if it were negotiated?
You think you're ready to go ahead and do a thing, but then you kind of change points. You go, no, we should really be more open-minded. So, well, I think this was good, and so we've, despite our incredibly hectic and overscheduled weeks, we're still able to contribute.
We are
to the greater good.
Yep, absolutely. So we miss you, Trek Talking. exciting, and I imagine we'll probably see you next week, right?
I think so. That is after the holiday.
It is.
Isn't
It's like the day after Christmas. I assume we're having
there
a show.
is there an episode on, as we say where I'm from, Boxing Day?
I believe that there is.
There is a Boxing Day edition, and we should be marketing it as the Boxing Day edition of Trek Talking.
Yeah,
have you unboxed this week's episode? I mean, that should really...
Take your package back and watch some Lower Decks.
Yeah, exactly. So we're running out of stuff to talk about here, and then pretty soon, I think the most cantankerous, craziest upcoming episode has got to be when we review Section 31, because someone's head's going to explode. I just know it.
That is absolutely
and I am there for it.
Going to happen, yes.
Because it's like, you got your preconception before you've seen it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm the same way, right? And then, but after you've seen it, does your preconception stay the way,
Totally.
or
No.
can you say, "Wow,
I'm ready to be wowed"? So.
Yeah, it's like how I am. It's tomorrow morning at like 6 a.m. Pacific. Okay, they're dropping the trailer for James Gunn's Superman movie, right? And I have major preconceptions for that. I'm super excited for that because I'm a big James Gunn fan, big Superman fan. I want it to be good. But what if it's not? I'm like a little nervous.
It's risky.
I really am looking forward to it because that's going to be for me. Like I got to see it. I know Miss Superman. So yeah, crazy. Thank you for doing this.
All right, thank you.
This was fun.
Yeah,
we enjoyed it,
Very
and
nice
we'll
to see
be
you.
back soon. Trek Talking.
Ciao.
Ciao.
All right, guys. Eric and Paul were kind enough to record that for us, and they both scored the episode of an 8. Although I think maybe Paul could have gone with a 7.5 or a 7.8. What do you think, David?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the holidays, man. You got to do it.
That's right. It is the holidays. And to answer your question, I addressed it at the top of the show. There won't be a show next Thursday because I'm not going to be here. My father just passed away, and so our holidays have been moved and shifted around. So I'm not going to be here for the holiday for Christmas. I'm going to be traveling back home from Massachusetts the day after Christmas. So I won't be back here in time to do a show. So there won't be a show next week. So the episode, what's the title of the episode that was on?
I have it right here. It's actually called Fissure Quest.
Fissure Quest. We will talk about that the following week. So just mark your calendars about that. So, David, what did you think? Are you right there with Eric and Paul?
Yeah, pretty much. This was a pretty good episode. I really liked Anna. I think this was probably the best episode that. I had to rewatch that whole thing. I was like, what did she say? Because I watch movies unsubtitled because of my hearing and everything, but the subtitles sometimes go by really super quick, especially when it's like a fast scene and other people are speaking. And so I had to rewind it. I was like, because she said the alien, the clicker said that she was set to kill, and so she said, "So am I." Oh man, this was probably one of my favorite episodes, at least top 5 for sure. But yeah, this and to answer the question about next episode, I did watch it, unfortunately, which is also really funny. Just no spoilers, of course. But going back to the Upper Decks, though, this one was there's a lot going on, and I like the concept of yes, this is called Lower Decks, but what does the Upper Decks crew do while the Lower Decks, do their thing? And so, of course, we've seen all that throughout pretty much all of Star Trek. But I mean, this is why I like Lower Decks, because it's just something different. So it can be tropey here and there, but yeah, this one in particular I enjoyed a lot. And yeah, sure, we didn't get to see Mariner or Boimler or all the Lower Decks crew, but of course, the towel guy, I don't think he was in this episode, was he?
No, I didn't see him.
Yeah. So, they'll all be missed. But, I mean, it's a 30-minute episode. It will be fine. I did, however, enjoy the whole Kardashian lore with Sax. Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting. Of course, she's a Bajoran. they stuck with the whole profits and everything, which was really kudos on Lower Deck for that. I'm glad that they're sticking with a lot of the different lores of Trek and everything. So, because they could have easily just gone off and done something different, which I'm glad they didn't. But other than that, yeah, this particular episode. Oh, and answer the question that Eric and Paul had. That new character, yes, I had just looked it up, and it was Meredith. So she's the new apparent Upper Decks now, I guess. I mean, yes, she's an ancient, but is she still part of Lower Decks? I guess I don't know. Um, but yeah, as you can see on here, the slideshow, it's starting to come up to my favorite part. But other than that, yeah, this episode, I'm actually gonna give this one. I was gonna give it an 8.5, but I'm gonna go with a 9.1.
Paul would be so proud of you.
It's the
If Paul
holidays,
was
Paul.
here,
Come on.
he'd be proud.
It's I do have a point, so
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good for me.
Well, I got to say that. So one of the fans was saying that why wasn't why was the engineer, why was Billups working with a different engineer? Well, because this engineer was an ensign and is a lower decker, right? So the lower decker was working in engineering. So that's why we saw her. And I thought she was a great character. I was trying to place her accent. I couldn't. I watched the episode twice. I was trying to figure out what kind of accent she had. It was very unique, but I don't know what it was.
Was it Oregonian?
But I liked it. I really liked it. And I thought it was great when Billups is inside the giant tube and they're doing the Wrath of Khan thing and like he's going to die in the tube and she breaks him out. Every engineer dreams of dying on the job, I thought I liked that. And I liked how he had the whole ship. If you remember the episode Trials and Tribulations on Deep Space Nine,
Very well.
Bashir and O'Brien are on the Enterprise and they pop open this panel and O'Brien's pretending to look in there and this other ensign comes up and he's like, he's got everything bypassed. I don't know what's going on in here. And that made me think of Scotty in that episode when O'Brien says that, because Billups is like, I can't remember the jargon he used. I had to bypass the Heisenberg compensators and tie them into the doodads so that the whatchamacallit wouldn't do its thing. And he's going off with all this techno babble, and I loved it. I absolutely just loved it. And one of the fans said that it was tropey, that they troped the trope, and but it was interesting to see the bridge crew doing what they're doing while the lower decks are doing what they were doing. And I thought it was great that Mariner is like, oh, well, they can't do anything without us, and we make the whole show run. And if there was an alien invasion, we would have known about it, And meanwhile, the aliens are walking down the hallway right behind them, and they're like, oh, I saw your father here. I saw your father here. And he's like, no, I would have known if he was here. So, they don't know everything that goes on the ship, and everything doesn't evolve around them. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. Like Paul said, it wasn't very funny. It wasn't your typical Lower Decks episode because there wasn't a lot of humor in it. I did find it funny that when they were carving their pumpkins there, that they were carving V'ger. Like, and Mariner's like, ooh, let's go and beam up with V'ger, and they were making fun of V'ger.
Yeah.
And,
when I first saw that image, I thought it was a Species 8472 ship.
It looked just like that, and in the original motion picture, you didn't get to see V'ger. That ship of V'ger wasn't added until they did the director's cut. Much, much, much later, you actually get to see V'ger. In the original theatrical version, you never see V'ger.
Okay.
So that was cool. And Boimler has a goatee now. He doesn't have the full Riker beard, but he's got the goatee going on. So we'll have to see if he actually develops the beard before the end of the show. And the Tahana stuff, oh my God. I was laughing. That was the funniest part, Turn it effing up, rip my guts out. And I'm like, oh my God. And you know what? I always look at Tahana and I see her, as Pulaski. I look at her as Pulaski. And I could just see Pulaski screaming that same stuff, when he walks in and says, "Oh, I have the hypo sprays in case everybody breaks out in song." Oh my God, I was laughing. And she's like, "F that," and slams it on the floor. It was great. It was a great Tahana episode. So yeah, I think I'm right there with I think I'm there with Paul and with you. I think I'm gonna go with a 9. You know what? No, in honor of Paul, I'm going to go with an 8.9, just for Paul, an 8.9. Don't want to give it a 9, but I'm going to go with 8.9, just for Paul, just in the spirit of Paul. And that's going to bring us over to Charles. So, Charles, what do you think about Upper Decks, buddy?
Okay, well, I want to throw a little apology to the fans that got a chance to see the live video. They just put a new update in the software, downloaded it, and I'm getting all kinds of frame rate errors. So I had to turn my camera off, and I seem to be stable for now. So I missed a little bit of Paul and Eric's speech, but this one seemed to be a little bit of a filler to me at points. I'm not sure I could see a captain who sits there and schedules her day hour by hour to what she's doing. And she schedules a live birth going on. She schedules a theatrical performance. It's like, I could see you putting some of this stuff on your schedule, but to sit there and say hour by hour, I've got a list of what I'm doing every moment. It's like, I don't think I've seen any other captain that has such a detailed schedule. I do agree that Tiana was a good story on that part. But the aliens... So we've got this doctor who's actually an alien trying to get on the ship so they can sit there and steal these species' abilities. It sounds like something we kind of done before. I'm not sure maybe what episode we've done it, but sounds like something that's kind of been done previously. And I agree, yeah, we got a new ensign. It's like, okay, yeah, and we got 2 more episodes. We're probably not going to see her again. So it's a new, I guess our version of Lower Decks final season Red Shirt, where they put a new cast member that is going to show up for an episode. And we'll see them once. But I think most of this episode's probably gotten a review on it. I'm going to go with Paul and David on this one and go with an 8.
All right, an 8. So what does that give our Trek Spurts in comparison with our fans on our Facebook page?
Well, the fans gave Upper Decks an 8.9. The host gave an 8.4.
Wow. That's very respectable. Very, very respectable.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up our review of Star Trek Lower Decks, Upper Decks. Weird. Lower Decks, Upper Decks. And I think the slideshow looked pretty good, David. You did a good job. And now, you know what time it is? It's time for our Star Trek birthdays.
Chaworf Togana Lobreta, Chaworf Togana Lobreta, Chaworf Togana Lobreta. Stumata Chastolbora.
That was not a Klingon song.
No, that was not a Klingon song, and Worf says that every week, but we love him anyways. And This is the part of the show where normally we would turn to Eric to do our remembrances, but Eric isn't with us, so I'm going to try to fill his shoes right now by sadly enough remembering those members of our Star Trek family who are no longer with us. So we're going to start off by remembering a really awesome character, Christopher Plummer. You guys know him as General Chang from Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. He reprised the role of Chang for the video game Star Trek Klingon Academy. In a career spanning over 60 years, he earned 2 Tony nominations. Anakin. Anakin. My cat is literally in my face right now.
Oof, you're also really loud.
He's purring on me too. He also reprised his role of Chang in the video game Star Trek Klingon Academy. In a career spanning over 60 years, he earned 2 Tony Awards out of 7 nominations. This is not going to work. I'm sorry, but you you got to go over here. Over there. Nope, give me back my earpiece. There we go. Now you stay right over there. Good kitty. Where was I? 2 Emmy Awards out of 6 nominations, an Academy Award nomination, an Academy Award, and numerous other accolades. Michael Dorn, who acted alongside Plummer in Star Trek VI, once described him as an incredible actor. Perhaps Plummer's most famous film role is that of Captain George Von Trapp in the classic 1965 musical, The Sound of Music, directed by Robert Wise, who went on to direct Star Trek: The Motion Picture. He was also the father of Amanda Plummer, who played Vadic in Season 3 of Star Trek Picard. So, kapla to Christopher Plummer, we miss you. Next on my list, we want to remember Gail Bonney, who died at the age of 82. She appeared as the second witch in Star Trek, the original series, second season episode, Cat's Paw, their attempt at a Halloween episode. A prolific bit actress whose career began in the very late 40s with a handful of appearances throughout the 50s and 60s and the first half of the 70s. She worked steadily in small parts with fairly generic credits such as A Woman Nurse and similar descriptions. Among her roles were Miss Hudson in the mother of precocious, mischievous twin boys in Desilu's sitcom I Love Lucy, the Amateur Hour episode. So Gail Bonney, we miss you. And we also want to say how bad we missed Martia Dubois, who was the actress who played Ardra in Star Trek The Next Generation's 4th season episode, Devil's Due. Dubois was born in David, Panama, portrayed Princess Koji in Mutaka's adventure series Tales of the Golden Monkey. I don't recall that one. Starring Stephen Collins from Star Trek The Motion Picture. Dubois was listed in the opening credits of every episode, although she only appeared in 10. She also had recurring roles on Magnum P.I. and made guest appearances on such greats as Hardcastle and McCormick, starring Brian Keefe and Daniel Hugh Kelly, The A-Team, starring Dwight Schultz, L.A. Law, starring Corbin Bernstein and Larry Drake, and Silk Stockings and Matlock. So, yeah, she's been pretty busy herself. We also want to say that we remember and miss Ben Cross, who died at the age of 72. He was an English actor who played Sarek in Star Trek 2009. Hailing from London and a graduate of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in Bloomsbury, Cross made his feature film debut in the 1977 war drama A Bridge Too Far with Jeremy Kemp. While performing in a stage production of Chicago, Cross was discovered and cast in Chariots of Fire, co-starring Star Trek The First Contact's actress Alice Krige, Nigel Havers, and Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Enterprise guest star Dennis Christopher. The film became an international hit and launched Cross into stardom. Wow, we got a lot going on here. I don't know what's what, but we got to do everything here. We also, on my list, the final one, we want to say how much we missed Bill Zuckert, who died at age 81. He was a New York-born actor who played Johnny Behan, the sheriff, in Star Trek, the original series, 3rd season episode, Victor of the Gun. Zucker's career extended nearly half a century. Besides his stint on Star Trek, he also made guest appearances in such classic television series as The Honeymooners, Gunsmoke, My Favorite Martian, starring Wade Walston, Family Affair, starring Brian Keith, Bewitched, Barnaby Jones with Lee Merriweather, and Maude with Adrienne Barbeau, Mary Tyler Moore, and Quincy M.E. with Robert Ito and Gary Wahlberg. He also had a one-year stint as Arthur Bradwell on the Emmy Award-nominated series Mr. Novak from 1964 to 1965. Unfortunately, we have another Star Trek actor who passed away recently. Star Trek actor Jill Jacobson dies at age 87 after a lengthy health battle. Jill Jacobson, whose career included a role on Falcon Crest, has sadly died at the age of 70. The news was confirmed by actor's friend Dan Harre. The entertainment world is mourning the loss of Jill Jacobson, who passed away at the age of 70. The actress, celebrated for her roles in Star Trek, died in California due to a long-standing health issue. Jacobson's career spans several decades, with her first on-screen appearance as the lead in the supernatural thriller Nurse Sherry in 1977. She gained further recognition at the convincing Aaron Jones in the CBS soap opera Falcon Crest, joining the cast in 1985 and being featured in over 20 episodes until 1987. Her journey with Star Trek began as a role of Vanessa in Star Trek The Next Generation in 1989, followed by a portrayal of cafe owner Aria in Star Trek Deep Space Nine in 1996. Jacobson's extensive television career is documented on her IMDb profile, including appearances in shows like The New Gidget, Quantum Leap, Murphy Brown, Ghost Whisperer, and Castle. The filmography also includes notable movies such as Splash in 1984 and Reality Queen in 2020. She will be deeply missed by numerous relatives, fans, and her beloved dogs, Benny and Kowalski, Harre expressed. So I got to tell you guys a story because, what would Trek Talking be without one of Uncle Jim's famous stories, right? So a friend of mine got a job working for Star Trek in 1991, and my wife and I flew out to California. There's a burger joint out there called Fuddruckers, and Karen and I stopped there to get burgers one night, and who comes walking in but Jill Jacobson? And she, for those of you who don't know, she's the lady that blew Data's dice in the episode Royale.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys remember her? No? Yes. So Karen and I were just like blown away. I'm like, Karen, look, that's the lady that blew Data's dice. Like, should we go over and talk to her? And Karen's like, no, she's eating her burger. Let her be. And I just sat there and just was amazed that the lady that blew Data's dice was sitting there having a hamburger, like 2 tables down from me. It amazed me. So I didn't actually didn't go over and talk to her or express, how much I thought she expertly blew Data's dice. But I did, admire her and marvel at her from afar. So that was my big run-in with Jill Jacobson. So may you rest in peace, Jill Jacobson. You will be missed. And now we're going to turn this flaming birthday candle over to Charles.
Thank you, Jim. And I apologize ahead of time for a few of these names. Happy birthday to the J. Rita, who played Captain Joe Randolph in Star Trek IV The Voyage Home. Happy birthday to Melanie Smith, with the third and final and most frequent actors to play Tora Ziyao on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Happy birthday to Jason Mantzoukas, is an American character actor, comedian, writer, and podcaster who voiced Jacob Hogg in Star Trek Prodigy. And the last one on my list, but a big one here, A very, very happy birthday to Garrett Wang, an actor out of Riverside, California, most famous for his role as Ensign Harry Kim on Star Trek Voyager. I believe we're going to get a chance to hear Garrett Wang in the next episode. Is that it, David? Is that the next episode we talk about him?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, so
And
I
I'll
guess
pass the flaming candle over to David.
Yeah, I guess I'll be taking over for Paul. Thank you, Charles. My first birthday on this list is Billy Zand. He is a writer, producer, and occasional actor. He played the part of the Randorite ancient in the Star Trek motion picture. And next on the list is Howie Sago. He is an actor, director, and producer who played River in the Star Trek The Next Generation second season episode Loud as a Whisper. Like his character, Sago is deaf. Oh, so he was actually deaf in real life? I
Yep.
did not know that.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. And last on my list is Ronnie Rowe Jr. Is an actor who played the communications officer Ronald A. Bryce in the Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. And that wraps up our Star Trek birthdays. And now it's time for some Star Trek news.
Oops.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Incoming transmission.
Enter authorization code. Command codes verified. Define parameters of program. Level 9 authorization required. Specify parameters. Transfer of data is complete. Blank alert. Blank alert.
All right, guys, we've got some breaking news to fill you in on. Star Trek Starfleet Academy continues to build excitement for the new series. The cast already includes Hollywood familiars like Holly Hunter, Paul Giamatti, Tatina Milizzi, and Tig Notaro. It also features Robert Picardo reprising his Doctor character from Star Trek Voyager. Now it's added the WWE superstar. In a video shared to X, Becky Lynch announced, quote, "You know, when you're already been a champion of the world, there's only one place to go next, and that's to the stars. I'm so excited to share with all of you that I'm joining Star Trek Starfleet Academy as part of the bridge crew. This has been the most amazing experience acting alongside such a spectacular cast and crew. I can't wait for all of you to check it out when it comes out on Paramount Plus." End quote. The Irish-born Lynch's real name, Rebecca Quinn, is a 5-time WWE Women's World Champion. She is also one of only 5 women in WWE history to headline WrestleMania, the industry's biggest annual show. Lynch is one of the company's most popular stars. In recent years, Lynch has tested her charisma and wit in various TV and film projects. She has guest appearances on Billions and Young's Rock, and she also voiced the character of Axe Hammer in Rumble. Star Trek Starfleet Academy will be her biggest role yet. It is probably explains why she has been on hiatus from WWE for almost a year. Now, I have to admit to you guys that I have no clue who this woman is. I've never watched WWE. I know nothing about this at all. You know, it sounds like she's a big deal, but I don't know. And Starfleet Academy was also picked up for a second season, so I don't know if she's in the first season or the second season. Does anybody, Charles, David, do you know anything about her?
Nada.
No?
No, even less than Jim does.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't watch WWE either.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going to move right along, and I'm going to turn the news over to Charles. Take it away, Charles.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Kate McGrew fought for inclusivity on Star Trek Voyager, but got rejected. Star Trek, which is a very progressive franchise in many respects, has always had something of a fraught relationship with the queeriness. Gay or lesbian characters weren't always wholly visible on the series, and dating couples tend to fall into the heterosexual. Near the end of his life in the early 1990s, Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry once idly mused he'd like to see it to depict two background male characters holding hands in a romantic way, but it's hardly a great spearhead for progressive ideals. There were occasionally attempts to include queer stories in Star Trek throughout the 90s, but they were few and far between. The Next Generation, The Outcast, was controversial even at the time, and Deep Space Nine's Rejoined did allow Jadzia Dax to have a romantic relationship with a woman, but she never had any other relationships with any other women after. Otherwise, it wouldn't be until Star Trek Discovery. In 2017, the franchise would include an openly queer character as part of the regular cast. Discovery certainly made up for lost time, featuring multiple queer relationships and even more queer actors. When Star Trek Voyager debuted in 1995, however, some felt that it was already high time to include a gay character on the show. Lead actress Kate Mulgrew, who played the stalwart and commanding Captain Janeway, felt that Star Trek could even be more progressive than it already was, and she even appealed to the show's executive that a gay character might be written in the show, and it was quite unfortunately shot down. McGrew recalled talking to Star Trek head honcho and credited Voyager co-creator Rick Berman about the possibility of a gay representative on the new series. Even before it debuted, Voyager received a lot of press for hiring a woman to play the show's central captain character, as well as all previous Star Trek shows featuring men in the captain's chair. According to McGrew, Berman felt a female captain was enough in terms of a positive representation, and queerness was elbowed out. McGrew said, "I wanted a gay character on the bridge with me, but they couldn't be pushed. Good enough to get a woman in the seat, you know. I went to Rick Berman and said, it's a good cast. It's a very good cast, but we need a gay character. I want this known. This is my preference and my choice." But there wasn't any room. They felt at the time things changed quickly. Voyager, to its credits, featured the First Nation character of its first officer, a Latino Klingon as engineer, an Asian ensign, and a black Vulcan. It wasn't hurting for diversity. Berman was, however, still weirdly reluctant to feature a gay character on the show. It was 1995. It was well past the time when such things should have been acceptable to a mainstream science fiction series. In retrospect, it's thought that there was a queer character in Voyager after all. Jerry Ryan joined the show in the fourth season. He played a former Borg named 7 of 9. The character was immensely popular, but also seemed heterosexual. At the end of the season, 7 of 9 instigated an affair with Chakotay. But in the 2020 series Star Trek Picard, 7 returned and began having an affair with a new character named Raffi, played by Michelle Hurd. It seems 7 was a bisexual after all. Thanks to this new wrinkle, McGrew got her request ex post facto. And definitely, I agree that DS9 thought about trying to do some stuff, but they really didn't go very far. And if you ever watch the documentary on DS9, they wholeheartedly admit that that was one area they completely failed at. And I'm thinking with the new documentary for Voyager, they're probably going to say the same thing. That's the one area that the series just never got to that should have.
You know, I want to do, we are going to do a Star Trek Discovery Legacy podcast. I want to talk about Discovery now that we've had time to digest it. Now that it's been over for a while, I want to talk about it and bring up our memories and discuss it in great detail, the whole 5 years. But I really think that part of the failure of Rick Berman, and the reason why so many fans just hated Discovery with a passion, I've heard it called queer Trek, woke Trek, all kinds of derogatory comments, is because Rick Berman failed. He failed miserably to give Star Trek that inclusivity so that fans didn't see gay characters. They didn't see these characters represented. So when Discovery came along and represented them, they weren't used to seeing it, so they immediately hated it. And that's unfortunate. But I think that Rick Berman did a lot more damage to Star Trek than he did good by failing to give us representation. Because to me, representation, that's what Star Trek is all about. It's not about the Borg. It's not about the starships or the Klingons, all the cool technology. It's about working together. It's about acceptance. It's about Rudolph and his red shiny nose saving Christmas. That's what it's all about. And if you take that out of Star Trek, you don't have Star Trek. And a lot of fans don't seem to grasp that, unfortunately. And that's why I think they should have put more gay characters on Star Trek through the whole thing. And that even, okay, is there a gay character on Strange New Worlds? No, there's not, unfortunately.
We don't know a couple of the preferences of the characters on the series.
Right, and we don't know, and that's the sad part. We don't know. So yeah, I mean, representation is very important. It's extremely important. Gene Roddenberry started it with TOS by having Uhura on the bridge. You know, there's Uhura every day. You're looking at a black woman on the bridge. That's representation in the 60s. An Asian character on the bridge, a Russian character on the bridge. That's representation. An interracial kiss, that's representation. And people forget in the 60s what a big deal that was. And so Star Trek started with that. But when Rick Berman took over the reins in the second season of TNG, he was more interested in making money and making Star Trek mainstream. Didn't want to rock the boat, didn't want to go too far and upset advertisers. So they had a cookie cutter that worked. And it worked on TNG, so they used it on DS9, they used it on Voyager, they used it on Enterprise. And unfortunately, by using that cookie cutter design over and over and over and over and over again, you create generations of Star Trek fans who don't know the importance of representation because they're not seeing it. And so that's why I think Discovery is such a great show and why I think representation is so important to Star Trek. It has to be there to keep Star Trek alive. So without any further ado,
hold on, Jim.
Go ahead.
While you were doing it, I was doing a quick search, and one of the episodes was come to mind was Murphy Brown. And I did a quick search on that one. That episode about her, one of the characters on that coming out of the closet was 1992. 4 years before Voyager came out. There was already starting to be an early precedence on that, and yet Berman still refused to accept it.
Yeah, I mean, people will mention the episode of Deep Space Nine, Rejoined, and that's the first thing they always go to. But I have to point out something, that the episode Rejoined was that particular scene that they're talking about. Dax is a Trill, and the Trills are asexual. So even though Dax is a female and she's kissing another female, they're both asexual symbiotic beings. So they're using a gimmick is what they're doing. It's not true representation. They're cheating is
Right.
what they're doing.
Well,
They're
and
not.
in the episode back with Riker and that asexual society, that originally was supposed to be a male character, and the showrunner refused and said they're going to make it a female, make her feel female, even though the true story is they wanted to actually make it a male character, but they wouldn't allow it.
That's right. Jonathan Frakes has talked about that many times.
Yep.
They wanted that to be a male character, and Jonathan Frakes felt that the episode would have been more impactful had it been a male character, but they wouldn't do it because they didn't want Riker to be seen in a relationship with a man, so they wouldn't do it. So Star Trek wasn't always, at the cutting edge. But the producers weren't always on the cutting edge like Star Trek should be. So we'll talk a lot more about that when we talk about Discovery, when we get to our Discovery show. But that was an important story that I wanted to get out there because it really bugs me when I hear people referring to Discovery as gay Trek or queer Trek or woke Trek. And to me, those are people that were behind the door and don't understand what Star Trek is about, because representation is the number one thing that Star Trek is about. We should all accept each other for who we are and what we are. And that if the world did that, it'd be so much of a better place. Look at what's going on right now in the United States. We need that now more than ever. And that's where we need Star Trek. And that's when we need Star Trek to stand up and put that in people's faces, So, David, you've got our next story, and this is a fun one. And actually, funny story, I was coming home from work, and I heard this exact same story on my local radio station on my way home from work the other day. So take it away, David.
Cool. Yeah. So, let me bring this over here to the center so I can keep an eye on everything. So let's see. New York woman blames Star Trek license plate for tens of thousands of dollars in accidental tickets. A Long Island retiree says she's getting traffic tickets from all over the country. But the thing is, she stopped driving 4 years ago. So how could this be happening? Beta Corey, love of Star Trek may be at the root of it all. These came yesterday from Chicago seating tickets. They are $100 each, Beta Corey said. Back in 2020, the Huntington resident surrendered her license plate, sold her car, and stopped driving. She I quote, I don't have a car. I don't drive. These plates were turned in, unquote. The 76-year-old said. Sorry, I'm kind of getting a little bit of a clogged throat here. Yet many walks to her mailbox, bringing the retiree unwanted surprises. Quote, they are persistent in what... They are persistent and they keep sending me tickets, unquote. Her old custom plates honored Star Trek and had the same number as the Starship Enterprise NCC 1701. However, for $15 on Amazon and eBay, some Trekkies have been easily replacing their real plates with the same novelty plates and getting away with it. The accrued tickets from all over the country are being mailed to Corey. Is that how you pronounce the name? Corey? I believe so. Sorry for butchering the name. So anyways, continue on. Quote, red lights, speeding, parking, school zones, unquote, she said, describing the types of tickets she receives. She also gets hit with E-Z-Pass tolls. Not sure what that is. Must be something over in the east.
That's toll road. That's a toll road pass.
Yeah.
You need to pay for your toll roads. Go up to
Interesting.
Going
Washington.
over-
Go up to Seattle. You'll see them.
Okay.
Going over bridges, through the tunnels, they charge you.
Interesting. Quote, I got a phone call from Ohio, a police chief looking for plates because they were involved in a robbery, unquote. The New York Department of Motor Vehicles says novelty plates being used illegally on the road is a matter for law enforcement and nothing in its system connects Corey to her former plate. The DMV also said that it's up to each state and billing entity to make sure it is utilizing the most up-to-date New York DMV data. For instance, she doesn't drive a motorcycle, yet has received a ticket. Quote, I've run out of ink. I've run out of stamps, Corey said, trying to answer every summons. Corey has hearing and sight issues. Quote, she said, quote, it all comes back to me, so the whole country has my name and address for tickets I don't even owe, end quote. She said the reason for her tears and frustration is because she has been billed tens of thousands of dollars. And this is yet another quote. Yes, because I can't afford it. I'm on the fixed income, end quote. So,
Wow.
yeah, I don't understand how the DMV could be, unless there's some sort of mix-up with a name or address,
Or
I would
somebody's,
imagine.
they can't trace the plates to current data, so they decide to go to historical data to see if they can track it down, not realizing that these are based on plates that are probably fake.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. Very,
Weird.
very interesting. And you would think they would know that, you know. But hey, it's DMV guys. They're slow. Now we know just how slow they really are. She hasn't been driving for 4 years and they're still sending her tickets.
Yeah,
That's slow.
I've seen situations where it takes longer. I mean, oh my goodness, the DMV, especially over in Oregon. Oh, I would imagine
Yeah.
it's worse in like bigger cities, of course. But my goodness, Portland is just like that's one of the reasons why I don't drive. I can't stand the DMV anymore.
Yeah, poor woman. I hope they get that straightened out. All right, so the next story I've got is a little short little quip here. Star Trek Strange New Worlds producers asked for more than 10 episodes. This is probably the biggest complaint that I hear over and over and over again about Star Trek is why only 10 episodes? Well, let's find out. Once upon a time, Star Trek fans could expect 20 or more episodes of their favorite series per season. You guys remember those days? 26, 27, 28 episodes per season? I remember those days. With the advent of streaming, though, the numbers are considerably less, with most new series getting around 10 episodes per season. Only Star Trek Prodigy has given 20 episodes for its first and second seasons, while Star Trek Discovery was given 13 episodes in Season 1, 14 in Season 2, 3, and 4, and its final season received a 10-episode order. Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek Picard each had 10 episodes per season, as has Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So this is something that fans have complained about, and we still continue to want more. It's clearly not something that's going to happen. Star Trek Strange New Worlds executive producer Akiva Goldsman verified that this is true. Quote, no, we aren't doing more than 10 episodes. I mean, not so far, and we tried in fairness. we have that sense, and it's most practically represented by the number of cards that are episode cards we get in the beginning of each season. It's sort of like a Friends analogy. Let's do the one where, let's do the one where, let's do the one where, and we always have more cards than 10 by the end. So Discovery was 13 episodes, and we sort of batted our eyes and said, give us more. They said, no, you can have less. And we said, no, 10 is good, and that's probably where things are going to stand for a while. So, you know, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it myself. I've read things on the internet that say 10 episodes is what they figure the average binge-worthy series is. If it's more than 10 episodes, people are less likely to binge the whole series at once. And I get that. I really do get that. But I want to go way, way back to the beginning of Star Trek Discovery. Remember, Charles, when we were doing shows where we had new Star Trek every week for almost a full year? Do you remember those days?
Yes. We had 1 year we went through almost 52 weeks. We were like 40 weeks of Star Trek.
Yes. And in the beginning, when CBS All Access, now Paramount Plus, started, we were told that their goal was to have new Star Trek every single Thursday. And they were moving towards that goal. And then all of a sudden, they just started canceling shows left and right. And they started knocking everything down to 10 episodes. And now here we are at 10 episodes, and we're lucky if we get new Star Trek 6 months out of the year. Never mind every Thursday. And, you know, and it's crazy because if they're going to do that, let's say, for instance, they give us 13 episodes. So if they give us 13 episodes and they do 3 Star Trek series, there you have it. We're just about where we want to be, right? But 10 episodes, and they're only giving us 2 new series. That's only 20 episodes a year. And to me, that's crazy. They can do better than that. They have to do better than that. Because a lot of people I've been reading, they're now canceling their subscriptions because they're mad about Lower Decks being canceled. They're mad about Prodigy being canceled. Discovery was just prematurely canceled. And if they want to keep fans interested and engaged, they've got to give us new content. And they don't seem to be too inclined to do that. I mean, when are we going to see Starfleet Academy? 2025?
26, I think.
Yeah.
2026. Strange New Worlds we might see in 2025, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's coming out in May? Did they give a date yet?
So
no.
So
Okay.
let's look a year ahead. We have Star Trek Section 31 coming up. That's a one-shot deal, one movie, done. We've got that. Then we have 10 episodes of Strange New Worlds. And then what do we have after that? Nothing.
Academy. Yep. We won't have Academy till probably the following year.
Yep. So we have...
And then they do the next season of Strange New Worlds.
Yep. Which means we're going to have about 40 weeks of nothing new, and that's just unacceptable.
We're now at the point of they've canceled all these series. There are no more series left. They were saying, we cut one series for a new one, but we haven't gotten new ones yet. Wasn't there a series that a comic series they're working on?
Yeah, we don't have a title for that or any information on it, but Tawny Newsom's working on that new series about the live action series about people working on a starbase. And that's all we really know about it.
Is it Starbase 80?
It could be Starbase 80. It's supposed to be a comedy, and she's really hilarious. I think on Lower Decks, and that's going to be a live action series, but we don't have a title. We don't have anything about it. We do know that there's 2 seasons of Strange New Worlds. We do know that Starfleet Academy is going to have 2 seasons. I have to assume that this new Tawny Newsome show is going to be at least 1 season, right?
Probably 2.
We can hope.
We can hope.
They're probably going to renew this for a second season, even before the first season comes out. So
we might also get the situation, and let's see what happens with Paramount Plus's first streaming movie, and maybe we'll get a chance to get some more movies or something from that, but then it's going to be at least a year or 2 in production to get that out.
Right. So we're yeah, we're running pretty late here, you know, for Star Trek shows. I mean, there's not much in the pipe, and even if they do a movie, you're looking at a year to see it. So yeah, it's looking pretty dim for the future of Star Trek, guys.
Yeah.
And there's no need for it either. With a little bit of planning and just looking ahead a little bit, they could avoid this whole thing, but they don't seem to care. You know?
I think some of the profiteers and money makers in the industry just isn't looking at thinking Star Trek's a big profitable series. Well, some of the other ones aren't really turning a big profit either.
True.
Also, I don't think it's not that they don't care. It's just I have a feeling it has something to do with ideas. Like, sure, Strange New World was an idea brought on from Discovery. And I think if they're gonna come up with any more series, they're probably gonna have to fill in the gaps for, like, what took place between Kirk and the Next Generation, right? So there's that whole 100-year gap with that 23rd century kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, it could.
Right.
Yeah.
Fans gave them a big idea, and they blew it down, saying, "No, we don't want to do Picard Legacy. We don't want to do Star Trek Legacy." Even the fans sat there and said, "We want more from Picard. We want expansion past that series." But nope, they just don't want to sit there and go with it. Even though there's a big demand for fans saying they wanted more.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if any of those particular producers or people who make Trek or anything watch our show, but we've had a couple of cool ideas that they could probably end up doing. So I mean, the whole Klingon story, or like the different aliens, what their point of view is to Starfleet kind of thing. So it'd be like a Game of Thrones style, but it would be an interesting idea. I mean, there are lots of ideas out there. It's just that the thing is that people need to bring the idea to the producers and the people who film it and stuff. So,
and they also say that 5 seasons is the maximum that they want to go for a streaming series, because beyond 5 seasons, they're losing money at that point, because anyone that's invested in the series is already there, and going beyond 5 seasons isn't going to attract any more new people than they already have. So after 5 seasons, they want to switch gears, move on to something else. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know. But I think that they were very short-sighted, and particularly in pulling the plug on Prodigy like they did, because in my opinion, season 2 of Prodigy was absolutely outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was some of the best Trek we've seen in a while. I wasn't overly impressed with season 1. I mean, I liked it, but season 2 just blew season 1 out of the water. Yet they canceled it. Had they kept that would have given us 20 more episodes of Star Trek on Paramount Plus, but they dumped it. Now they're dumping Lower Decks, when Lower Decks is just starting to really get its feet and get really, really good. They're canceling it. Discovery, they did the same thing. They canceled Discovery right, when they were just, taken off, they canceled it. Picard was always going to be canceled. That was always only meant to be 3 seasons, so we knew that going in. But I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with Star Trek.
I really think that Star Trek will still be alive even in the darkest hours that we tend to go through. So to me, I think it's like a roller coaster. It goes up and down, up and down. We're gonna have good years, we're gonna have bad years. So, I mean, what was it like? What was it like before TNG came out? I mean, I was really young by then, but I mean, between Captain Kirk's original series and TNG, I'm assuming that a lot of people, the movies were there, but I mean,
movies, that was it.
Yeah,
the animated series.
There wasn't much for internet.
No, the internet didn't exist.
Yeah,
well, the animated series came out before the movies did.
Yep.
So
73, 74.
yeah, to me, I mean, that might have been the darkest years for Star Trek. And then when Next Generation came out, then that's when it started getting the ball rolling. And then from that point on, it was just like new ideas
No,
had to come in. So,
I think we had a dark era after Enterprise,
and that too, yeah.
especially with the JJ coming out and kind of the way that one came rolled out
Hmm.
with a bit of a fan issue. And I think we finally got Discovery came through, and that kind of brought us back to having a good series of shows.
And then that's when New Worlds came through, or Strange New
Yeah.
Worlds. So,
Well, at the very least, I think they should bring back short treks. We had a
Yeah.
lot of fun talking about short treks, and don't forget, short treks actually gave us a lot of Captain Pike and Number One and Mr. Spock. We saw them on Q&A, Trouble with Edward. There was a lot of good short treks that came out and filled in some gaps. They could have a lot of fun with short treks and give us a lot of different. They could go all the way back to TOS with short treks if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So
The door on the dog.
yeah, and speaking of short treks, I just had a really interesting thought about how they could do the new short trek, because have you guys ever seen the new Amazon series called Secret Level?
No.
I have not yet.
Okay, it's a very interesting way of doing a video. It's basically random stories that aren't really connected to one episode to another, but they're just random, what if kind of things took place. So it's a really interesting look at like if Trek ever did a short Trek, they could do something similar to that, where they would take like a character and just kind of like go through like maybe 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or something of just telling the story of a particular character, like maybe Lower Decks kind of character or something. So I thought that would have been an interesting take on if they were ever to bring short Trek back. So
That's
just putting it
what
out
they
there.
pretty much what they did on short treks.
Yeah.
And they could do it again, because they could visit. They could do a Captain Sulu. I mean, you got to remember, they already have the sets, they have the uniforms, so utilize it.
Yeah.
Do it. But I don't work for Paramount. I'm not in charge, but I think they gotta get their act together. And they don't even do the Ready Room anymore. When's the last Ready Room that we saw?
No, Jim, you missed the announcement today. We are going to get another Ready Room, I think next week, because Will Wheaton is going to interview several members of the cast of Lower Decks on their final episode on Paramount
okay.
Plus.
Oh.
So we are getting a Lower Decks episode coming soon.
Okay.
All right. Well, okay, but still, guys, they got to get their Star Trek stuff together.
Yeah.
They got to pull their shit together, get their act together, and do it. Stop the crap and do it. Well, you know what? We filled up another show. Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
We did it.
We absolutely did it. So I'm looking at the calendar. I just want to let you guys know that there will be no show on the 26th,
on Boxing Day.
On the 26th, which is Thursday, because I'm not going to be here. So the following Thursday will be January 2nd, and that is going to be what is it? Fissures?
Oh, Fissure Quest.
Fissure Quest. We'll talk about that one on the 2nd. And then January 9th, we're going to wrap up our Lower Decks coverage. That'll be our final episode, which is called The Next Generation. And then on the 16th, we're going to have Tim Russ with us, Mr. Tuvok himself. So please go to trektalking.com, record a question or a comment. If you just want to say hello to Mr. Russ, please go there and record your question or comment so we can play it on the show for him. And then on the 23rd, we'll probably do a Discovery Legacy podcast, because I'm really wanting to talk about Discovery. And we're also going to have a Section 31 is going to be in there as well. We'll talk about that. So we do have some stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm your most excellent host, Uncle Jim, and I'm just reminding everybody to stay safe and be good to each other. Remember, Star Trek fans are the best fans. You guys better believe it. So I want to say thank you so much to Paul and Eric for recording that awesome segment for us. And thank you to Charles for hanging out and Trek talking with us. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Jim. In fact, you just gave me an idea. If you're not wanting to really sit there and leave a voice message, but you still got a question for Tim or us, come over to the new Patreon page. Jim just said it, and I said, I need to post a post saying we're going to have him, we're going to have Russ on the show, and if you got a question, post it there. I will throw questions out from the page as well.
Yeah, and hopefully they're going to get our Facebook page back up and running so I can get the Patreon on there. We also are on YouTube. We're on X. We're on Blue Sky. We're on Instagram. Hopefully our Facebook page will be fixed and we can get all that information out to you guys as soon as possible. So Facebook is just crazy. Let's hope they fix that up. I also want to say thank you to David for hanging out and Trek talking with us and for the awesome slideshow. Thank you, David.
Yeah, this has been fun. Speaking of the slideshow, I was just thinking when Charles was mentioning posting the questions on Patreon, is there a way that we might be able to get them to also do a video recording if they wanted to? That is an option, if that could be a thing? I don't know.
I don't have any way of doing a video on Patreon.
Okay.
Yeah, not sure. We can look into it.
But
we used to do live live callings and everything. Is there a way to also get that going in as well for this particular platform?
We gotta talk to our engineer about the new studio.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There might be a way to do it, David. I'm not sure. This is only our second podcast with this new thing. Maybe there's a way we can do that. We'll work on it.
I'm just trying to, get people involved, so.
We'll work on it. We'll see if we can do that. There might be a way. I'm not sure, but we'll work on it.
Sweet.
At any rate, guys, I'm your most excellent host, Uncle Jim, and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Star Trek fans are the best fans, and you better believe that. Hailing frequencies are closed. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Live long and prosper.
All stations, ready for departure, sir. Some problem, Riker?
Just hoping this isn't the usual way our missions will go, sir.
Oh, no, number one. I'm sure most will be much more interesting. Let's see what's out there. Engage.